The Girl from High Society, a short story by Paul McCann. Christine was born rich and lived a very comfortable life. Anything she wanted she could have, but there was still something missing from her life. She had needs that could not be satisfied. Once a week she made an escape from the high society lifestyle and assumed another identity that no one knew. Very early, every Tuesday morning, Christine would dress up in servant's clothes and make her way to the back gate of her mansion home to the streets of the big city. This escape with her secret identity fulfilled one of the needs that she had, to live as one of the people. She called herself Molly, and off she went looking for adventures. In the big city, nothing ever changes on the sidewalks, full of strange faces and busy lifestyles. Somehow Molly felt free there. She was unknown and fitted in well to the street life. There were no attachments to anything or anyone. She stole flowers from her basket to passers-by, where it gave her the opportunity to look at life from a different perspective. Standing there with her roses, looking at the faces of those who passed by. Some stopped and spoke to her, some smiled. Something was about to happen in her life unexpectedly. She would fall in love, as people do. Fate had arrived like an invited guest upon the streets of the city. It was Valentine's Day, and Molly had sold 3 times the amount of roses, which on this occasion were big, expensive, long-stemmed roses. After they were all gone, she was getting ready to return to the palace with the money that she had made, and was so happy about the day. All the people she met had bought roses for that someone special in their lives. She wished that maybe someday she would find that someone special to share life with. It was at that point when a young man approached with a guitar. He opened up his guitar and produced a rose, and then gave her the rose and took up his guitar and started to sing her a song. She stands on the corner and wishes you well. She's got baskets of roses to sell, and when they're all gone, I'll say thank God that she came, and I'll wait for her to come back again. Molly started laughing and applauded, and then he stopped singing and he said, just a little song I wrote to compliment what a beautiful person you are. I've never seen such beauty before. Until we meet again. The young man left, and Molly had been captured by the things he did and said. No one had ever sung to her or told her things like that before. Part of her really needed to hear that. The next Tuesday, once again, the young man arrived with a guitar over his shoulder, riding a skateboard, clenching a rose in his teeth. He dropped the rose at her feet and started singing another song to her. Hello, beautiful lady, with the fragrance of roses that you bring, you make this world a better place by being here every time I sing. Hello, beautiful lady, thank you for everything. She looked into the young man's eyes and saw something real that convinced her that he meant what he said. Each Tuesday, Mick would always arrive with a single rose and another song. One Tuesday, Molly stood there selling her roses, and a man grabbed her bag with the money and ran away. Molly screamed for help as the thief ran off, and out of nowhere Mick appeared and stopped the thief with a flying tackle around the ankles. A fight ensued and Mick got the better of him. A police car happened to be passing by and stopped, and some eyewitnesses gave an account of what had happened. After the thief was arrested and taken away by the police, Molly went to say thank you to the young man. She smiled and said, "What is your name?" Hello, well, my name's Mick, and I believe this is yours." He took from his pocket a crumpled up red rose, and they both started to laugh. They had met, and not for the first time, but this time was different, as they had fallen in love. After that day, they began to see each other as often as they could on the outskirts of the city, where Mick had a small apartment. He had no idea of her true identity. The two of them were happy together, and the love they had was unique. There were no limitations, expectations, no demands. They were just happy to be in each other's arms. She was of royal blood, and he was a common man who had been abandoned by his parents and lived alone for most of his life. This most unexpected couple to have ever met somehow had found each other. Mick never expected any favours from anyone and asked no one's help, which gave him the edge over others in everything he did. Molly and Mick expressed their emotions anywhere and anyhow they could. She was so happy and confident about Mick that she decided to reveal her real identity. One Tuesday, when he arrived with another song and a rose for her, she said, "Mick, my name is actually Christine, and I have something I need to be honest with you about." Mick looked worried. "Should I ring for an ambulance before I collapse?" A few moments later, she told him who she really was and stood there by his side, waiting for a response. Okay, so when can I meet your mum and dad?" That was exactly the response that she needed to hear, because she knew that nothing had changed between them and that they could continue to be who they were. She held his hand and said, "I'm going home now to speak with my parents. Around 6, I will send a driver with a car to pick you up and bring you to the palace and meet my parents." Mick was cool about all that, and when he arrived for dinner, he had a tuxedo that he hired for the occasion. That evening, as they sat in the main dining room of the palace, dinner was presented on a very large table by many servants. After the servants had left, and before everyone started to eat, Christine cleared her throat and said, "Mum and Dad, this is Mick." The Queen replied, "Oh, so Mick, is that short for Michael?" Christine replied, "Before you say anything else, let me finish. If you don't give us your blessing, we will run away. We will get married, and we will live in another country. We love each other and are going to spend all our lives together, one way or another." The Queen burst out laughing and continued uncontrollably, almost losing her breath. Christine exclaimed, "What is so funny about that, Mother?" The Queen regained her composure and she said, "Well, darling, it's just that your father is also from a similar background. He was a working man when I met him, and turned his hand to being a silversmith, but that was many years ago." Mick burst out laughing, and everyone followed, and they talked for hours, and they drank wine until the small hours of the morning. Mick was offered a room in the palace to stay overnight. After the engagement was made public, the young couple started to make appearances in many places around the world. They had a wonderful way of winning over the people by handing out red roses everywhere they went. They were married and they lived happily ever after. The end.